Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast. Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast and a cup of tea with very kindly supported by NAF. Now, today's guest, a very, very talented young gentleman. It is the first time he is coming onto the podcast. We are delighted to have him with us. Welcome to the show, Toby Pigott.
Thank you very much for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
There we go. That is what we like to hear. I love it when people come on the show and listen to the podcast because it always makes me very, very happy. So appreciate it. Okay, first question is, and I got in so much with the listeners for forgetting to ask Fred Scala this question, who was our last cup of tea guest. So I won't make the same mistake again. What are you drinking, Toby? I'll set the scene. It is 7:30 on a Monday evening.
It is a gin and tonic, emphasis on the gin.
Ooh, what kind of gin?
It is Bombay Sapphire.
Oh, and are you a tonic? Are you a sort of a tonic aficionado?
I mean, it depends what's on offer. No, I was told by a gin connoisseur, gin is all the same. It's the tonic you mix it with. So I do try and spend a bit more.
Yeah, I've been told the same, actually. I got quite adventurous with trying different combinations, and actually it made a massive difference. So, yes, very good answer. Very good answer.
Those are the real questions, yeah.
I know, exactly. All the hard-hitting journalism on the Eventing Podcast. You know, what kind of gin do you have with your tonic, etc., etc. I'm not going to lie. I decided that I was going to not drink in the week this week. So I have the water. So I'm being very well behaved. So all living on the wild side over here. But never mind. Right. Now we've got that done and dusted, let's crack on with the show. So we actually your ears must have been burning. So we were speaking about you on the Aston Walls preview show, which we had recorded on the Monday evening. I know, well, it was good. It was good because you put in quite an impressive dressage performance with Lance Little, who was a 4-star debutant and went on to have a great... He had a great run at Aston in his first 4-star. Tell us a bit about him and tell us a bit about how Aston went.
So his show name is Lance Little because he's by Lance a lot. In the stable, he's Stuart. And I have had him since he was Rising 5, I think. I bought him off Jesse Campbell, who I think you've had on the show before. And he is co-owned with the brilliant Hannah Chard and Emily Corbell with me. He was a debutant at Aston Walls for his first short 4, and he was brilliant. He's always had certainly a lot of ability. It's taken a lot of effort to channel it, as with a lot of top horses, I guess. And regarding his good dressage, I think that's been quite a recent step in his development, that he's built like a wheelbarrow, bless him. So it's taken a while to sit him up, of which he's very recently starting to be able to do. So he was able to show himself off quite well in the dressage, which I was really pleased with. And then we went home after having done our test on the Monday and hung out at home and just played around at home on the Tuesday. Then went back to jump on Wednesday, and he show jumped really well. I was very pleased. He did have one down, which, you know, is pretty typical for an event rider. And again, that's still an area he's getting better in. He's a very good jumper. He just needs to be reminded of it every now and then and put it all together on the day. And then he really stepped up for the cross country, which was a Mark Phillips track for the first time at Aston Walls, which I was really pleased with, rode really well. He took all the straight lines and direct routes on all the strides that I wanted to do, which is a rare occurrence for me. And I didn't forget where I was going, which was even better. And thrilled with him, really. For the first one, you can't complain with that performance.
No, absolutely. Lots to look forward to for the future. Tell us a bit about Aston, because obviously it was the first time they have held the 4 short there. We had heard that Captain Mark Phillips's cross country was going to be pretty meaty, I think was the exact description. What was your take on it? Obviously very different to Chatsworth, but it was never going to be the same as Chatsworth. It was different and brilliant in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Chatsworth is very much its own event with undulating ground, which Aston doesn't have. Aston would be a much flatter course, which would mean that there's less of an excuse for when it goes wrong, I guess. For me, I walked it and I felt every question was fair. There were certainly some bigger fences than normal than there have been at Aston, which is fine. I think everything rode as it should do when it was ridden correctly, which I'm sure is what Captain Mark was after. Regarding the accuracy questions, which I think claimed a few scalps, there were some pretty serious angles, but thrilled with my horse that for the first time seeing that sort of question in a competition environment, he really locked on and made my life very easy, which, thrilled when a young horse steps up and understands a course like that. And, I can't ask any more of him. I was delighted.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to hearing what his plans are for the rest of the season. Before we do, though, just give us an insight into Toby Pigott eventing. Where are you based? I believe at Wiltshire. Is that right?
I am in Wiltshire. So at the moment, I think on my yard is 10 horses, and I rent a farm called Rabson Manor with my partner, Emily. And on her yard is, I think it's about 10 or 11 she's got at the moment. And we are based probably only about 3 miles from Barbury, the event there.
Beautiful part of the country. Listeners, if you have not been to Barbury and it is in your sort of travelling distance, then definitely put it on your radar as ones to go. What about the horses within your team? Because you've got Lance Little, who's just stepped up to 4-star. I think I first really saw you in an event by the Masters leg with Golden Forever, who was sort of, I guess, the horse that really took you up the levels straight off. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Definitely fair to say. He's been a fantastic horse who still continues to go well. He's owned by Carol Jackson Bell, who's been incredibly supportive. He came to me quite late on in his career. He was 13, I believe, very much set in his ways and still is. A lot of work has been done with his flat work, which slowly is getting better. Physically, he finds it very difficult, and mentally. Bless him, there isn't a huge amount of his conformation that you would say would really suit eventing. He's much more suited to ploughing a field. He's very much Irish draft, and good on him for it. But, he is a horse that could not try harder in the jumping, which is great. And now he's not as young as he was. He's now 16. So I do aim him very much at 3-day events. He wouldn't be a 1-day horse. He finds that all far too dramatic. But at a 3-day, he can settle because he's in the environment for longer. So into 3-day wise, he's been brilliant. He's now done his second double clear at long 4-star in a row. Last one being at Burnham Market last year. And I think, well, now that we're being hinted or teased with, we might have a British 5-star replacement. I'd love to aim him for that, wherever that may be. And if not, I'd love to go to Blenheim or Blair on him this year.
Okay, I was going to say, because he was top 10 at Tattersalls at his 4-star long debut. 5-star this year, it'll be your 5-star debut. Is it something that you have always dreamed about from being a young boy to be a full-time event rider at top level? Was this your goal, or did life take you in a different direction?
It's certainly, as with probably every other event rider, always in the back of your mind that would be a huge milestone to tick off. I think for me, when I started doing this, when I was about 18 or 19, first and foremost, it has to be a business. I've had to wave goodbye to a lot of really lovely horses who probably would have continued to be very successful in order to continue to try and make this sport profitable for me. And it has to be a business. That is the absolute most important thing with us. So it certainly is on my radar. I would love to do a 5-star, although it's no good if I can't afford to enter it. So it does have to be a business first, but very much so. I would love to be able to do this potential British 5-star this year on Golden Forever. But if not, I'm lucky to have a team of horses who I believe stepping up would be the sort of horse that would be able to tackle something like that.
Yeah, it's a really fair point, isn't it? And we've come across it many times on the podcast, and a lot of young riders are sort of finding this. Fred Scala said the same. You've got the young horses, but ultimately you have to make a living and make it something sustainable for the future, and some hard decisions have to be made along the way. What about Lance Little? What is his plan for the rest of the year?
So Stuart heads to Bicton Short 4 in a couple of weeks, who hopefully he'll put in another good performance there. And then regarding his plan, he might head to Bersham or Barbary again for the Short 4. And then with time flying as it does, then hopefully Blenheim will be very much in his sights, and I'd love him to go there for the long 4.
Unless it's a 5-star Toby.
Yeah, then I'll have to reroute to Blair, hopefully.
Then it'll be a change of plan, just in case. I'm so excited about a
bit of a longer drive.
I know, but it's so beautiful up at Blair. Now, one question I love to ask our guests, and we've got a little collection of future superstars now to keep an eye on. Is there a horse in your yard that you think, do you know what, really watch out for them? Because I think a lot of them, they're going to be a top horse of the future.
There is certainly a horse on the yard who I purchased 2 years ago, who I've now been able to syndicate, called Cooley Cash, who is currently rising 6. I think he'll be a very, very good horse. He certainly seems very able in all 3 phases during his short career so far. He's got heaps of blood, which is so important for top level. And so far his brain seems absolutely spot on. So I would hope that horse will progress very positively. And I really believe that I'll hopefully still be competing at a very high level in the future.
And is he going to be aimed at age classes? So you say 6 this time. So is Leon Danger or Osberton sort of on your radar with him?
Yeah, it would be. I try not to get too excited about age classes, and first and foremost try and concentrate on the horse and try and forget its age. But certainly the way he's going, I think he would be a candidate. But for Leon, very much with the atmosphere there and the crowds, which potentially we may have again at that time of year, as long as lockdown continues to progress, he would certainly cope with that atmosphere, I believe, and he certainly would have the talent. So that's certainly, if it all works out in the right way, then hopefully I'll be heading there. But first of all, it has to go well and I have to get selected. So there's a long way to go first, but I would love to do that on him.
Yeah, and the 6-year-olds are always super, super competitive. But you make a fair point, because actually young horses all develop at a very different rate, and it's easy to go, oh, Leon, oh, Osberton, but actually another winter, another 6 months, and things can really have sort of developed and changed and can do them the world of good and sort of actually bring them out next year in even better form. What's he known as in the stable?
Cash.
Okay, not quite as cool as Stuart. I think that's one of my favourite stable names. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Toby, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us a little insight into Team Pigott. It has been a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
No worries at all. Listeners, we hope you enjoyed hearing from Toby and finding out a little bit more about his team of horses. We'll be back very soon with another cup of tea show for you very soon. A big, big thank you to NAF for their continued support, and we will be back very soon. Toby, thank you. Listeners, thank you. And join us again on the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast. This is what the Olympic gold medalist Carl Hester has to say on Team NAF.
My job in all of this, of course, is to be able to say to the experts, this is what I feel the horse is doing, this is what I would like it to look like, what do you suggest? And I'm lucky to be able to have somebody that I can ask those questions to, because, of course, they are the experts, they're the people that I have to put my trust in, and the horses. We want to ride on teams, we have to think of safe sport, we know that NAF leads the way in that. I have this really wonderful relationship that I feel is trustworthy, I can ask what I like, and at the end of the day, it's how our horses look. And I think we could safely say that, when you look at the type of horses we have and the covering of muscle and condition that they're in, that things are really working well for us.